Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited that you're here, and I cannot wait to begin talking to you a little bit more today about your network. We're going to talk about how you can nurture your network. So in our last episode, we spoke about how to go about growing your network. Connections on LinkedIn and email and text and whatever it was in a way that would be appropriate for your project, how to reach out to people that are new to your network, people that have been recommended to contact from your friends and your family. And I hope that you've been doing that. We talked about having something to give to someone if they say that's a really cool project, maybe sending them an infographic or a one-page summary or something that you can follow up with. So that's a great idea. If you haven't done that, now's a good time to start. Also, we talked about developing your pitch deck. So depending on what your project is, it will determine how complicated your pitch deck needs to be. But definitely is a good idea, because if you really get somebody who's interested, you want to be ready to go. So, and then we talked about thanking people who connected with you, who shared their network with you. Thank them for sharing their network. And so I'm assuming that you're doing that. You're getting a lot of energy around that. It's just really exciting. And so today we're going to talk about taking that next step and nurturing those relationships. But before I do, I want to thank those of you who have connected with me. I have 2 LinkedIn accounts, and one is at my professional network and one is for this passion project of mine, Small Steps, Big Dreams. And I've had connections with you, those who have been listening to these episodes or downloading some of our resources. And I am so grateful and honored that you have done that. So I even had somebody reach out and ask if I could share some people in my network with them. And that was really super exciting. So thank you to those who have done that. And please let me know if I can be helpful to you in any way. So to set the stage for today, I want to just remind you that networking is a two-way street. Sure, it's really exciting to know that there may be somebody who's anxious to hear about your project and who you're excited to connect with, but also you need to think about ways that you can be helpful to those people. So that's how you begin to build a relationship with people, is understanding what they can do for you and also understanding how you can be helpful to them. So if someone connects with you, please remember to say thank you to them. So if they've accepted your LinkedIn request or sent you an email, just please reach out and say thanks for connecting. So great to hear from you. Looking forward to learning more about what you do, or ways that we can share our resources. That's the beginning of any relationship, is communication. And so it's important that you don't just file away the fact that they've connected with you. It's important that you begin growing that relationship. So when you go and reach out again, you've reached out, they've accepted your connection request, you've thanked them. Now, if you don't hear back from people, which you may not, remember, the ball is in your court to develop this relationship. It's up to you. And that's really exciting because you have all the opportunity in front of you. So if you reach out to them for the second time, you may want to say something like, I heard this podcast that I thought you might be interested in. I read this article. I was in a conversation with someone. Somehow let your new network connection know that you were thinking about them. And so when you do that, send them a link, send them the article, send them whatever it is. You can remind them that you're working on your passion project. You can say, I'm still working on developing my resort, on forming my literacy group, learning how to start a new group in my community, whatever it is, tell them that. And that may remind them that, maybe I am interested in that. Reach out. So when you do that, you can also ask them if they have a few minutes to share their perspective or give you some insight on your project. Yeah, a lot of good ideas have come from people just having a dialogue. They may not be the person who can solve your problem or help you move your project away down the road in a tangible way. That's okay. They still may have some insight or perspective, or they may know somebody else that they can connect you with. So ask them if they have a few minutes to share some perspective with them. I wouldn't necessarily recommend asking somebody directly, especially if it's somebody that you don't know well, to do something for you before you actually begin to form a relationship with that person. If you know them or know somebody who knows that person very well, maybe you'd be a little bit more comfortable asking. But if it's somebody who is a distant relationship to you, you don't know well, maybe your connection who introduced you doesn't really know them well, I wouldn't suggest asking right off the bat if they can do something for you. I personally would recommend growing that relationship before you begin asking for a specific thing that that person can do for you. Just consider that. Okay, so we talked about what happens if you don't get a lot of responses from any network connections. But let's talk about now what happens when you do get responses, which is so exciting. So if you get someone who responds to your connection request who says like, this is so exciting, this is such a cool idea, like let's talk about this a little bit more. That was always like super, super exciting to me. So if you get that, then what I would recommend is scheduling a call or a meeting as soon as your schedules align. So I would say maybe not that same day, even though you might be really tempted to do that, because there is going to be some prep that you're going to need to do in order to be at your best. But as soon as your schedules align, then get that call or meeting scheduled and get it on the books and get going. So when you do have your call or meeting, it's a good idea to spend some time making an agenda for yourself. You know, think about what it is that you want to accomplish in this, we'll just say call. In your call, you know, what is the goal of the outcome? What would you like it to be? Do you want this person to do something? Do you want them to connect you to someone else? Do you want them to say, sure, you can have an event at my home? Like, what are you looking for? What would be the measure of success of your call or your meeting? So I'm not saying you need to script out every word that you're going to say, but definitely have your thoughts together about what you'd like to accomplish, and think about the time that you have to accomplish it. If you've booked a 30-minute call, you know, you're going to have to move through your project, introducing yourself and your project and all those components of the call within that 30-minute window. So a plan will be helpful to you, and you can probably guess this is a reoccurring theme for all of our episodes is about planning. A plan is a good idea to keep you on track and keep you able to communicate clearly to your new network person. So, okay, so now it's time for you to have your call. This is what I would recommend doing. I would say spend a few minutes introducing yourself. Give this person a little bit about who you are, maybe where you live, where you're from. You know, help them get to know you and know how you communicate. Also ask them a little bit about themselves and pay attention to those personal details. You know, do they have a shirt on that has their favorite baseball team? Are there pictures behind them of, you know, their dog or their kids, or, you know, a great location that maybe they went on vacation? Notice those things and remember them. So if you think that you may not recall the details. When you hang up from your call, write them down. Write down the summary of what you learned about the person and what did you both agree to in your conversation, because sometimes it's hard to remember everything and keep track. And if you're lucky enough to be talking to a lot of different people, you want to make sure that you keep all your facts straight. So pay attention to those details. Tell them why you think that they would be a good person to connect with about this project. So tell them why their experience and their insight is particularly important to you, because that will help them know that you are aware of who they are and what they work on. You're also saying to them, you know, this was not just some random connection, this has meaning to me. And that makes them feel a connection to you. Ask them, once all of that is done, if they still have a few minutes to talk about your project. And, you know, if they do, great, then you can begin talking about, you know, what it is that brought you to this phone call today. If they've run out of time, ask them if you can reschedule. But be respectful of their time. That's another indication that you are a person that this person would like to spend more time with. You're being respectful and considerate of calendars and schedules. Everyone is busy, and so you want to make sure that you are telling this person that their time is valuable to you. So you've prepared your agenda so you can begin telling your story. You can tell them all about what your passion project is, why this project is important to you, and what the highlights of this project are. And you can gauge at that point whether they are, you know, interested, or, you know, ask for their feedback. If they can connect you to somebody else, you know, ask them. Once the call is over, you can thank them for their time. You can continue to connect with them on social media in a way that is authentic to you. If they're posting on LinkedIn or if they're posting on Instagram and you see them and it's something that you agree with, you know, comment on it, share it, you know, interact with them in that way. You are reminding them of you and your thoughts and your project, but you're also beginning to develop a relationship with that person. And that's really what networking is all about. It's a relationship. It's a two-way street. And when you are, you know, thinking about the call or meeting that you had, maybe there's something will come to mind about a way that you can be helpful to that person that you spoke to. You can reach out again and say, I remember that you were talking about a project that you were working on. And you know what? I thought of somebody in my network. I'd like to introduce you to that person. Would you like me to share your email with them? And that's how you begin to nurture those relationships. In our next episode, we're going to continue talking about network. It's so important to your project. In many cases, projects begin and move along and ultimately end through other people and other people's resources, their contacts, their insight, their perspective. It really does sometimes take many hands to move a project along. And so networking is really important. And that's why we're going to spend our next episode talking about the people that I call the haters and the doubters, who you may run into as you move along in your project. Those are the people who may not be helpful at all, or who may say that they're helpful and then turn out really not to do anything, or maybe just even tell you that you shouldn't do your project at all. You may encounter those people, and I want to help you be able to deal with them in an appropriate way. So we're going to talk about that. But before I do, I want to make sure that I say thank you for joining me today. I hope this information is helpful to you. Remember, small steps, big dreams. We're in this together. We can't wait to hear about your project. Keep those connections coming and have a great week. Thanks, friends.